You know, a lot of things have been said about the great Bob Proctor since he passed away a little over a year ago. And there have been all kinds of tributes and all kinds of things. And I just wanted to say something about Bob that was not said at the tribute. And I haven't heard really from anyone else, because I think that I had a unique relationship with Bob that was unlike any other that I know about anyway. And I wanted to share this with you because a lot of people that watch this channel, I think, and see some of my videos are big Bob Proctor fans. And of course, Bob was a mentor and a close friend of mine for 25 years. And we worked all over the world together and made lots of money together and had lots of fun together. And so I wanted to just give you, for those of you that are interested, just a little glimpse into a different side of Bob Proctor than you probably have seen on video or in the movie The Secret or any other place. I met Bob because we were both students, speaking students, of the great Bill Gove, the father of professional speaking. Well, Bob had been a student of Bill since 1968. I met Bill in 1996, many years later, and then Bill introduced me to Bob. So if you didn't know Bill Gove, or you haven't heard too much about Bill Gove, he was the father of the industry, one of the most successful keynote speakers that ever lived, and he was almost a comedian. He was a business speaker, but he had comedic timing, and he was one of the funniest people you would ever meet in your life. He worked with all the great comedians. I mean, he worked with, spoke with about everybody you can think of, Carnegie Hall, Madison Square Garden, with some of the biggest comedians in the world over a 53-year career. But the way I met Bob Proctor was through Bill, and because Bill was such a funny guy, Bob and I had this funny relationship where we would cut up and laugh all the time. And it was when I would tell people about this over the 25 years that we were friends, people would say, "Not Bob Proctor. I mean, he's so serious. I mean, the guy wears a 3-piece suit to take a shower. He's a very serious guy." And he was a serious guy. He was very introverted, of course. And except when he was on stage and he became larger than life, then backstage he would be very quiet again. He called me on the phone in my office, say, "Hey Steve, it's Bob. How you doing?" I'd be like, "Who is this?" And then I got to, after I got to know his voice and everything, I understood it was Bob. But for the first couple of years, he talked so softly on the phone because he was a very introverted person. But when he came on stage, he was larger than life because he had to be, because that's what it takes to hold an audience's attention sometimes. And he was obviously a stagecraft master, a master of public speaking, and just a great person all around. But people always say to me, they say Bob would never be a funny, kind of a silly guy. Well, with me, he was, because that's the relationship. That's how I met him, through Bill, because him and Bill were always cracking up. And so Bob and I was always coming. That's the last time I talked to him was a couple weeks before he died, and he was just in this movie. He played a Catholic priest in this movie. And he called me up. He said, "Hey, you're going to love my movie debut as a Catholic priest." And I was just, we were just going back and forth, just laughing so hard about this whole thing. That was the last time I talked to him. I didn't even know he was sick. And I don't think he was sick right at that point. But anyway, we were laughing all the time. And probably the funniest thing was when we'd follow each other on stage. And we would cut up. Bob would introduce me and then cover the microphone up and then make some wisecrack at me, and I'd start laughing before the speech and threw me off. And then I would do the same thing with him when I introduced him. And we just had this really funny, hysterical relationship going back and forth. But the funniest one I got to share with you, because this was the joke we had for 20 plus years. Every time we worked together on stage, we probably worked on stage together 100 plus times, with big audiences, 10, 15, 20,000 people, and then some smaller audiences. But anyway, so the short version of the story is, I'm speaking for my first big speech, 1998, in Kansas City, 7,000 people, and Bob's on stage about to introduce Bill Gove, and then Bill's going to introduce me, and I'm terrified, because I'm with these two giant legends. It's my first big speech in front of a paid speech in front of a giant crowd. And so I asked Bill, Bob's introducing Bill on stage, and I'm backstage with Bill Gove. And I said, "Bill, do you have any last minute advice for me? I'm really scared." And then this is what Bill said. Bill said, "I do, kid. I'm glad you asked." Remember, he's a funny guy. He said, whatever you're going to do, if you're ever going to blow a speech, or if you're ever going to bomb, tonight is not the night to do it. Don't F it up." And he just broke out laughing. Then he goes up the stairs, goes down the stairs, and Bob gives him the microphone. Bob comes back and says, what advice did Bill give you before you go on? And I told Bob, and Bob fell down to his knees on the back of the stage laughing so hard. He goes, "That's the greatest thing I've ever heard a speaker recommend to another speaker. Don't F it up." And I was so nervous. Flop sweat was coming off my face. So that was 1998. Every time Bob introduced me from that point forward for 20 plus years, every time he would cover the mic, he'd introduce me, cover the mic, and say, "Seabold, don't F it up." And it was just a running joke for 20 plus years. It was the funniest damn thing. We laughed about that just hundreds of, I don't know how many times, so many times on stage and backstage. And I've never actually told the story full out like that, but that's actually what happened. And we just had this wonderful, funny, goofy relationship. And I felt very privileged about that because, again, he was a very serious guy. And he took, people would ask me all the time, say, does Bob really believe the things he says because he's so adamant? And the truth was, yes, he did believe the things he said. And he was very genuine about it, and he was very serious about it. But because we were introduced in that funny way, we would laugh and cut up all the time. And I'm sure he did somewhere, but I don't know all the people he knew, but I didn't see him do that with anybody else. So I always felt very privileged to be able to call him and just we would laugh on the phone for an hour talking back and forth. And I never saw anyone get to do that. So I feel very privileged I had that funny relationship with him where we could cut up back and forth. He was actually a very funny guy. I mean, people don't believe that when I say it, but he was hysterical. He really was funny. When he wanted to be funny. He was quick-witted, he was sharp as a tack, and he was funny all the way to the last time I talked to him, a couple weeks before he passed away. But I'm in the tennis cottage here at Bona Allen Mansion where we live in Georgia, and this is the Larry Wilson Tennis Cottage. Larry Wilson, of course, we did an album. I should have brought the album with me for the post, but we did an album together at Nightingale Conant with Bob Proctor and Larry Wilson and Bill Gove, and I should have brought that album. I don't have it here at the tennis, but this is the Larry Wilson Tennis Cottage, and then the tennis courts in the back of the cottage here. But this is a picture. I think about Bob a lot when I come to Larry Wilson Cottage here, and this is a picture of me and Bill and Bob and Larry Wilson at Larry Wilson's estate in 1999 when we did the album Create the Future for Nightingale Conant, and we sold it all over the world, and we had so much fun. Talk about laughing. But this is my favorite picture of Bob. I've got hundreds of pictures with Bob, but this is one of my favorite. This is my favorite one. When he came to Bona Allen Mansion, it's so big, I don't know if we can, you can see that, I think. So this is in front of the mansion, Bona Allen Mansion, our front yard, when Bob came to visit us last time he was here a few years ago. And of course we were laughing. That's because we were always laughing. That's Dawn, my wife. And we were always cutting up and laughing. And so I have this picture hanging in the studio where we do the Bill Gove workshop on the other side of the property at the mansion here. And Bob loved the mansion. He came here purposely just to see it, and he spent a couple hours here walking around. I gave him the tour of the property, and he loved it. But anyway, so I'll wrap this up. But I just wanted to share that side of Bob Proctor that I don't think most people, obviously Linda's wife and his close friends that knew it, but I just had this unique relationship with him. We had so much fun. He was such a wonderful person, and we did business all over the world together, made a lot of money together, influenced a lot of people, had a lot of fun, and he is missed. I miss him every day, as I'm sure all his fans do and everything, but I miss him in that way, that friendship way, where we had so much fun. I miss calling him up and cutting up with him, because it was just a wonderful experience. So I just wanted to share that for the Bob Proctor fans out there, so that side of him, because he was really he was the real deal, and he is one of the greatest legends of all time in this business, and a nice man, and he is missed. So thanks for watching.